The pelvic floor, right, has hip muscles that are involved with supporting the pelvic floor or involved in the action of the pelvic floor. And if your hips and legs are not integrated with the whole movement, the pelvic floor doesn't have full support or use of the legs. So I had an example in my own life recently where I taking care of a 2 year old, I fell backward and I landed on my butt and landed on my sit bone severely and injured my hamstring tendon. And then later that day, I'm taking a walk outside and I had to pee so badly that I wet all over myself. It hasn't happened to me since I designed the pelvic floor things. And I was something like, whoa, it's called key in the door incontinence, right? So I got to the house, I put the key in the door, and suddenly I'm peeing all over the floor. And luckily, the 2 year old, he doesn't notice. No one else was there. But I thought, well, why is that happening now? And it was happening because my left hip joint was just not working. Those muscles were really injured, and I didn't have the full support of the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor doesn't work by itself, it works with your hips and with your belly muscles and with your back muscles. And it's the orientation of the hip joints. So some people stand more with their feet turned inward or their feet turned outward, or some other way the weight's going on the feet, and then that changes the balance of the muscles in the pelvic floor. What did I do to correct the problem after she fell? Yeah, I put heat on my hip, my hamstring. I stopped walking as much. I used my arms to push myself up from a chair. I just tried not to do anything to irritate it anymore. And I'm still recovering. It happened about 3 weeks ago. So I'm still recovering. And I've been doing lots of Feldenkrais lessons and finding out that, wow, I have to really go very, very easily, because the smallest movement that I think wouldn't hurt at all, like rolling, suddenly I have pain in my hamstring again. So, and it's an old issue. I injured that many, many, many years ago doing splits. Would I advise doing the abdominal series before doing the leg series? Not really. They're all related. They all, feed into each other. Nothing, I think only in the pelvic floor series, I would advise doing pelvic floor 1 before doing pelvic floor 2. But otherwise, anything stands alone and connects to the others. How does it work so fast? I mean, Feldenkrais talked about that a lot. It's because when you wake up these connections to your body, how things are connected, and you get out of your habits or you get out of your training, your nervous system's really smart. And you learned all these things, how to use your legs as a baby without people telling you. But then as we grew up, right, and have injuries or training, especially certain kinds of trainings where you're trained a lot on isolation of movements, you forget how to put stuff together. I mean, I actually feel like it's kind of magic. I think it's really that our awareness and our sensation becomes very habitual, what we notice. So like even lifting the leg and rolling the pelvis forward, if I say to someone lying on your side, lift your lower leg, people often interpret that as like, oh, I'm not supposed to move anything else. Why? That's something that comes from your own internal process. It's like I'll often ask when someone would come to see me, like, oh, just turn and look behind you. And people would like rigidify themselves and then just turn their head, which is, that's okay to do, but that's not what you're going to do in a normal kind of movement. Yeah, the bodies are so smart. Bodies are really smart. If we give it the opportunity to explore, we learn through exploration and experimentation.